Baroness Sue Campbell. She's now chair of the Youth Sport Trust, and she's just been appointed head of women's football by the Football Association. She will start in March. Sue, why do you suppose the FA called your appointment a massive statement?
Good morning, Jenny. I think the women's game is already doing well. Participation is growing, and I think everybody's aware that the England team did exceptionally well at the World Cup. But I think what they're looking for now, what the new chief executive and the organisation is looking for, is a real step up for women's sport. And I guess because we were successful moving the Olympic and Paralympic results for London 2012, they believe that putting me in this role will give them a chance of lifting the women's game to a new level, which is, of course, what I'm hoping to be able to do.
The Lionesses, England women's team, did very, very well in Canada last year in the Women's World Cup. So how much will you be concentrating on the elite women's game?
Well, I think my role is really to have a look right from the very beginning, from school, from grassroots club, through the competitive structures, the leagues, the Women's Super League, through to the England game. And whilst there's lots of good practice in all those areas, it's a bit like a patchwork quilt. And my job is to review all of that and to develop a new, dynamic national strategy that improves both participation, the talent pathway and the elite performance.
But how do you plan to give the professionals a better deal? I mean, I know their pay went up a bit a couple of years ago, but enough to actually live on as footballers, because they still have to have part-time jobs and can't concentrate, like the men do, on their training.
No, I think that's a good point, Jenny, but I think it's growing the game. So, I mean, one of the challenges is how you sustain, as many of the men's football clubs struggle with, sustain the salaries, the wages of players against the income you generate. However, I do think the women's game is growing in popularity. I will be looking for greater commercial support. I am trying to increase and will be trying to increase the media coverage. And as both the commercial and the media coverage increase, clearly the women at the top of the game should be in a position to earn a proper living wage.
But it's a difficult thing for you, isn't it? Because people will say, no, I'm not going to go and watch women playing because they're not very good. And the only way you make them very good is to give them the chance to do their training properly.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really fair point, but I think you shouldn't underestimate how hard those women are training and how committed they are. I would like to bet that they're working just as hard as anyone in the men's game. However, what I am keen to do is make sure that we take the women's game out of the shadow of the men's game. I don't want the women's game to merely be in the shadows of the men's game. I want it to have its own distinct personality, its own vision, and its own very clear brand, rather than just be always compared with the men's game.
So what are you planning for the grassroots? Schools and football for girls is not necessarily high on the girls' priorities.
No, we're seeing a massive decline in girls' activity levels, and there is no doubt that the less activity girls do, both physically and emotionally and socially, they start to miss out. So it's really important that we do encourage schools to provide high quality physical education and school sport.
Have they got the pitches though?
Well, and there's been a huge investment in artificial surfaces, and as you know, this winter has not been the greatest for grass pitches, so there is a massive investment in artificial surfaces. But I think making sure that physical education is delivered well and at a high level in every school is important, and it is part of the national curriculum. It is there, it should be taught, but at the most, youngsters get between 2 and 3 hours a week, which of course, in terms of what the Chief Medical Officer wants every child to do, which is 60 minutes of physical activity a day, it means we've got a massive job to do to support schools, but also to build around them the other opportunities. My job is not to do this in isolation. I think all the women's sports in this country, and particularly the team sports, I think we could work really strongly and collaboratively together to drive a fundamental shift in attitude in schools and together to encourage many, many more girls girls to take up physical activity and sport, even if it's just for fun or fitness. It doesn't have to be that they're all ambitious to play for their country. You know, sport's a wonderful place to be with friends, to enjoy yourself, to have a great time. I think that social, emotional and physical wellness underpins everything else in our lives. I loved football as a child. I used to kick the ball against the door endlessly, and I didn't realise that in my era little girls didn't play football beyond the age of 11.
Baroness Sue Campbell, thank you very much indeed for being with us, and best of luck in the new job.
Thank you, Jenny.